Our Linux desktops have a ton of available applications these days. They might miss a few staples that you might be used to. There is a learning curve to a lot of those, but generally you will find almost everything that you want to do with tons of options. So to help you get started, or just for that, hey, I use that thing too kind of feeling, here is the full list of every single application, tool and utility that I use in my day-to-day life as a Linux user and Linux content creator. So desktop environment, web browser, file management tool, all the utilities, my terminal, everything is included in there, including also this message from our sponsor. So thanks to TuxCare for sponsoring this video. If you're a regular of the channel, you already know that TuxCare is the solution to ensure your Linux and open source stack stays secure and up to date, thanks to their rebootless patching that lets you fix security issues without rebooting your servers or PCs. And also thanks to their endless lifecycle support, bringing security fixes to a lot of open source applications, Linux distros, development languages, and frameworks. Speaking of which, they now offer the same endless lifecycle support for Amazon Linux too. This distro will reach end of life on June 30, 2026, and if you can't plan a migration in time, TuxCare has you covered. With a simple script, you'll get security patches for Amazon Linux 2 for as long as you want, straight from TuxCare's repos, so you do not have to worry about compatibility issues, dependency conflicts, or a rapidly approaching deadline. Check out TuxCare's endless lifecycle support using the link down in the description, and if you don't use Amazon Linux but you use other distros, they also support it for Red Hat, for Oracle, for Ubuntu, for Debian, for Alpine, and a few others. So let's begin with the core of everything I use, that's the desktop environment, and that is of course KDE. I'm on Plasma 6.5 still, not 6.6, because I use Tuxedo OS. They tend to delay updates to KDE for a few months, but it works fine. I don't customize it too much. I only added a top panel, which acts like the default bottom panel, but I do prefer it on top. I have my main menu, I have a favorites folder applet, I have the name of the current app that is running. I no longer have a global menu because it doesn't work well with the few applications that I use. I have my taskbar in the middle and the notifications, date and user switcher in the top right corner. Apart from that, I generally just use most of KDE's default applications in there. I use the Gently theme for the Plasma theme and window decorations, really close to Breeze, but a few refinements that I enjoy. I use the Breeze Dark colors and icons. I use the Darkly theme for my applications, which has a few settings in there for translucency and also setting your tabs how you like. I use the Oxygen White cursor theme, and my fonts are all Inter. I tweaked a bunch of settings and preferences in there as well, but it's mostly a bog standard KDE desktop apart from that. I just love KDE. It is fast, it is stable, I very rarely encounter any bugs. You can set it up how you like, you have all this extensibility through applets and the configuration of the panel. The default applications are really good. It's just, in my opinion, the best desktop environment you can get on Linux right now. The only thing I'm missing is some form of auto-tiling in the same vein as Cosmic does. I know there are some Kwin scripts that you can use, but none of them reach the same kind of ease of use as what Cosmic offers, and also the default tiling interface for KDE doesn't really float my boat either. My desktop itself is bare bones. I have fallen by the wayside by allowing some desktop icons to be there, which will shock early members of the channel, because if you were there, desktop icons kinda killed my dad, but I did let them come back and I think I forgave them, maybe just a little bit, or maybe I'm lazy. I also have a gigantic weather widget, mostly because it looks really nice. It is the Advanced Weather Widget, that's the name. You can install it from the Get New Stuff store of KDE. I like how it looks. It does let me know if I'm going to get drenched when I go for my daily walk, so that's sort of useful, but it's mostly there to be pretty. Now, another crucial tool is the web browser. I use Florp currently, which is a very stupid name, but it is a solid browser. It is a Firefox fork, which is my way of not falling into the Google Chromium monopoly without actually using Firefox. It's a sort of half-hearted protest against the direction Mozilla is taking. Although that protest has about as much weight as using Brave instead of Chrome. You're still supporting the underlying tech from it. You still depend on their tech, so it's not really doing anything. I won't pretend Florp is the best browser or the best Firefox fork there is, but it is nice enough for my own use case. It has more customization options for how things look, how tabs behave, where you place them on screen. It has a few sidebars that you can customize for quick shortcuts. It supports mouse gestures. It supports progressive web apps. It lets you install them and manage them. And of course, it supports all Firefox extensions and all the usual settings. Now, this could all be done on any other Firefox-based browser or Chromium-based browser. I just like Florp because it's simple. I have yet to see any single AI feature being crammed down my throat. Even the features Firefox added, I don't see them in Florp, which I like because I really don't want that crap on my system. It's not that it's my favorite of all time, it's not that it's the best, it's the one that works for me currently, and since I sync my passwords and everything through extensions, I don't necessarily need to focus on that. I can switch to any other browser anytime I want, as long as it supports a Proton Pass for my passwords. Now, I also sometimes use ungoogled Chromium because unfortunately not everything supports Firefox or its engine, notably some video conferencing tools. It is quite rare, but unfortunately it is sometimes necessary. I haven't synced anything or installed anything on that browser. It's more of a, hey, I need this thing now for one specific website kind of deal. Now, to break things up a little bit, here is a quick list of some cool tools that I use often. First is PDF Arranger. It lets me merge PDFs, remove pages, reorder them, rotate them, and export the end result as a single document. Really useful, doesn't really look well integrated with KDE. It is a GTK3 app, so it can use the Breeze theme for GTK applications, but it doesn't look great. It's a very handy little tool, although at some point I will probably just replace it with the basic PDF viewer from Firefox or Florp, because they just added support for importing another PDF, rearranging pages, and all of that stuff, so that tool is less necessary than it once was. For proofreading stuff, I use Eloquent. It is a simple GNOME app where you just paste your text in and it highlights all the errors and mistakes in different colors. Red for typos and unknown words, you can just click the word to get a suggestion to fix it. Yellow for grammatical errors like missing commas, hyphens, and other things. And blue for more writing style related errors like redundant words, heavy language, and things like that. For all of these, you can just click on the word or the sentence and it will provide you a solution to improve how things are written. It also supports a lot of languages. As a non-native English speaker, because I'm French, I do rely on it quite a lot because I tend to formulate my phrases the way I would in French, which doesn't necessarily result in proper English. I do still make tons of mistakes, but at least Eloquent makes my scripts just a teeny tiny bit better, and sometimes my emails as well. Also, I learn things along the way and better phrase construction and all of that stuff, which is good. To manage disks and storage, I use GNOME Disks because I feel like the KDE Partition Manager is less reliable and less intuitive. GNOME Disks is extremely easy to use. It just lets me flash ISOs to USB drives in an instant. It lets me format potential new hard drives. It works. I also use Firelight, which lets me scan the disk and identify what is currently using a lot of space in there. I can then delete unused things to make some room for the next video project, because these use a ton of storage as well, and even my external hard drive that has 2 terabytes is filling up quite quickly. To manage my heavy use of Flatpaks, I also use Warehouse. It is a simple tool that lists all the Flatpaks you have installed, all the remotes you have. For me, it is just FlatHub. The user data for each Flatpak is also there. You can delete that, uninstall stuff, you can copy the path to the user data, you can open its location, which is very useful because sometimes you need a manual tweak or copy paste in that space, and finding where these applications store their stuff is a pain. I also use it to quickly find the long name of a Flatpak because you need that for certain command lines, and Warehouse also lets you create snapshots of the state of a specific Flatpak, so you have a sort of backup that you can then apply to another system if you want, or restore on the same system in case of a problem. It is very handy if you rely on Flatpaks a lot like I do. It's become one of my favorite tools to handle virtually everything I install on my system, because almost everything is installed as a Flatpak. Now, to manage my tasks, I use Planify. I talked about it quite often already, but it's in my opinion the best task management application there is on Linux if you like the usual project/list of tasks structure. It's very simple, it's very good looking, you can sync it with anything using CalDAV or Todoist. It is a GNOME app, so not well integrated with KDE, or at least doesn't look like a KDE application, but it has all the features you'd want. You can add task descriptions, you can add recurrency, tags, due dates, start dates, you can pin some tasks, you have a 2-day view, a scheduled view, you have a bunch of options to integrate with a calendar to recognize dates automatically in the titles of your tasks. So if you type, for example, tomorrow in the title, it will set the due date for tomorrow. You can add sections in your projects for more legibility. You have reminders, you have a quick add pop-up window. It is just a fantastic application for to-do lists and task management. Just really, really good. I've been using it for years. It has never let me down. For me, the best tool for this kind of stuff on Linux. I also use AnyType for handling the publication schedule for the channel, but to be honest, I could do that on Planify too with a separate project and statuses or tags, which is likely what I will start doing soon. Now, AnyType is really cool as well, but it has a big learning curve, and I honestly don't really need what it offers specifically. I just need a task list with a few details, and Planify does that in a way easier fashion. For file management, I rely on the default Dolphin for KDE. This is an application that is extremely simple on the surface, but has tons of power and hidden settings, which makes it, in my opinion, the best default file manager you can have on any Linux desktop out there. It also looks really good with the Darkly theme, with this semi-translucent background behind icons, which I really enjoy. The only thing I don't like about Dolphin is how it handles network storage, because I cannot access my NAS from it. I enable two-factor authentication, and Dolphin doesn't seem to support that at all, so I simply cannot connect to my NAS straight from the sidebar. Same thing for my Nextcloud storage. Ever since I turned on two-factor authentication in there, Dolphin just doesn't want to access that shared storage. I tried every combination of URL and path, it just doesn't work. That is a really annoying problem that I haven't found a solution for yet, but apart from that, it just works. I can use the split view, I can just bulk rename stuff, I can open a terminal in a directory. That's the kind of stuff I do on my file manager, and Dolphin lets me do that super easily with a nice looking interface. Really, if you look at all the desktop environments on Linux, the major ones, I think Dolphin is the best file manager you can have by default. There might be more powerful ones available, but for my needs at least, Dolphin is perfect. Okay, let's go back to more small utilities to keep things interesting. So, first on my Warhammer channel, here's the name on screen by the way, because people keep asking, it's in French, so don't be annoyed if you don't understand a word of it. On that channel, I do a few PowerPoint-like videos, and I do need to remove the white background of the pictures of all the miniatures I use to illustrate these slides. And I use Diffuse to do it. You just import an image in there and it removes the background for you. It works really well for pure white backgrounds. I'm not sure how well it handles more complex stuff, I haven't tested it for that, but for removing the white background of miniatures, does it automatically, works really well. I just wish I could drag the image straight from the browser into the application instead of having to save it and then open it. That would make things a lot faster. For virtual machines, I use GNOME boxes. You might already know about it, extremely easy to use, runs really well, lets you download ISOs straight from the internet without you downloading them first. It supports 3D acceleration, although on Nvidia it is spotty, on AMD it works really well. It's a very well-known app, but really good, really easy to use. I also rely on the Flatpak for this one because it works better in my opinion than the ones from the repos of my distro at the very least. I used to use VirtualBox a little bit, but I found it really clunky, it crashed all the time, the boxes froze all the time. GNOME boxes is just way smoother. For podcasts, I use Casts with a K because it's a KDE app. It looks really good. I think it is meant for Plasma Mobile initially, but it works well on the desktop. You can just search for any podcast you want, you add it with a click, and you can listen to it in there. I mostly listen on my phone, not necessarily on the desktop, and I don't need syncing between my desktop and my phone for those episodes, because generally I just finish them in one sitting, and so when I move to another device, I just listen to another episode entirely. But if you do need syncing, you can do that using gPodder, if, for example, an app on your phone supports that, so you can sync play positions between your phone and your desktop. You can also stream episodes or download them straight to the device depending on what you prefer. It's a good application, simple enough. For my system monitor, I tend to use Mission Center. It is a very nice looking and cool GNOME program. The default KDE one works really well too. It is far more customizable. You can basically create your own pages with all the graphs and the things you want. But when I just want to kill a process, Mission Center is easy enough, and the little graphs that it gives you for monitoring how your system is doing are just way prettier than the ones on KDE. Sometimes simpler is better. I also sometimes use OptiImage, which is a very basic KDE utility to compress images. You just drag them in the window, it automatically saves them as a minimized version according to the settings you set for each format in the application settings. It supports PNG, JPEG, SVG, WebP. It is nice enough. And speaking of WebP, since this format is now everywhere but is not supported in the tools I use, for example DaVinci Resolve, I use Switcheroo to convert images quickly to another format. I know it is not WebP's fault, but I hate this format with a passion because I always need to convert those images to something else if I want to use them. Please Resolve add support for WebP. In the meantime, Switcheroo, drag and drop, click convert, you're done. Really easy. Now for system backups and cloud syncing of my files, I rely first on KDE's integrated backup tool. It is in the main settings of KDE. It lets you configure how you want to back things up. It can be a sync or a versioned backup, which is the one I use. You can exclude all you want from it, set the destination, set the schedule, and set reminders if the tool was not able to perform backups in the background. It will tell you, hey, it's been a while, do you want to do one now? You click yes from the notification, it starts, you're done. Of course, you can also restore your backups straight from the KDE settings if you need. It works really well, but it does tend to slow the system down to a crawl. I back up everything to my external hard drive, and as soon as the backup starts, that hard drive becomes impossible to access, and it also slows down access to virtually my entire other file system. Really annoying, so I generally tend to ignore the reminder to start a backup, and I start it manually afterwards from the little Plasma applet that you get in your notification tray when I know I don't need the computer anymore, because it really does slow down the system quite a bit. I also sync my main important documents to two different places, my Synology NAS, which is in my living room and also serves as a syncing point for my coworker on the Warhammer channel, and I also sync stuff to my Nextcloud server. To do so, I use Synology Drive, which is not open source, but it is an official client from Synology, and I also use the default Nextcloud desktop application to sync my photos and documents to that server. Both can run in the background at startup. I don't have to worry about them starting or not, so all my documents, photos, and important stuff is saved on two different places. There are no conflicts between the two either, so that's good. And so this means I have a full system backup on an external hard drive, I have a full backup of important files and documents on the NAS at home, and another same backup of all of these straight in the cloud in Nextcloud. And if I ever need to sync any of these files back to another device, I can pick the provider that works there and use either Nextcloud or Synology, depending on what I want. Now for anything related to images and graphics, I view images using the default Gwen view on KDE, good enough for me. It opens any image, you can rotate it a bit, you can even save it in another format, that works. For heavier editing, thumbnails and other things, I use the GIMP. It's good enough too. It took me a bit to get used to how it handles drawing rectangles and circles on screen. You need to make a layer, then do your selection in the shape of the thing you want to draw, then fill that selection with a color, for example, instead of having just a let's draw a rectangle on screen tool, which would be easier. But apart from that, it flows well. You can easily manage layers, you can add text, you can resize, you can rotate, you can crop, you can add transparency. It works for my very basic thumbnails at the very least. Now let's be clear, I am not a previous Photoshop user that transitioned to GIMP. I don't do anything complicated on that program, so I'm not here telling you that GIMP can replace Photoshop in an instant, but for basic photo editing needs, GIMP is perfect. It does everything you need, you just have to learn how it works. Now for everything related to documents, the Office suite I use is LibreOffice. It's fine, it works, it looks decent with the tabbed bar, it opens the things I create. I don't share documents other than PDFs, so I don't have to worry about any compatibility. I also used OnlyOffice a little bit, but it has gotten a pretty bad reputation recently. It also has insane memory leaks in the slides editor. The more images and slides you create, the more the program slows down to a crawl. You have to save your document, close it, reopen it. Sometimes it doesn't reopen. You need to kill the process. It was just annoying, so I just now use LibreOffice only. On top of that, I use the default GNOME PDF editor to add annotations and to sign documents. Ocular can do it on KDE, but I find the interface more convoluted. You have to create some kind of stamp to add certain images. The interface is not as immediately evident, whereas the GNOME document viewer is just super simple. It just works better for the few things I need it for. And for scanning documents, I use Scanlight, which is the default KDE scanning tool. It works with my wireless HP printer. KDE is excellent at just detecting that printer. It just works without any config or setup on my part. That is at least something. Printers are probably one of the oldest pieces of tech we still use currently, and they're still terrible. I don't understand why they can't be easier. At least on Linux, I never have any problems with any printer I encounter, but I used to remember how it was on Windows, finding drivers and stuff not being detected and printing not happening. It's a nightmare. Those things need to be fixed. Now, for taking notes and writing scripts, I currently use Joplin. They are a regular sponsor of the channel, although not of this video, but I do rely on their app to write everything because I really like it. I used to use QOwn Notes, which is also a very good application made for KDE, but I moved to Joplin a few months ago. It lets you sync your notes to Nextcloud or other providers. They have a nice, well-rendered Markdown view, or you can view the basic Markdown syntax if you prefer. They have a simple interface, but a lot of options under the hood to tweak things. They have a lot of plugins you can use to extend things. The only issue I have with Joplin is the fact that you can't really go in and out of that application with individual files. You can import all your individual Markdown node files into the app, but then it saves them into a database, and then you need to export the notes as individual files to use them somewhere else. It just doesn't rely on single files. That's the only annoyance I really have with it, because I would like those files to be more portable. Not a big deal. The other problem is the fact that it doesn't work with KDE's global menu either. It should support it, because when you enable the global menu, the menu in Joplin disappears, but it doesn't appear in the global menu, meaning it makes the app unusable. So this is why I had to disable my own global menu on KDE. Now, QOwn Notes that I used to use previously is also a great tool. You can make it very simple or very convoluted. It has plugins too, but it does require you to tinker a lot with the settings to have an interface that is not too busy, that doesn't look awful. And in the end, I just find Joplin easier to use and to sync with my phone and stuff like that. It just works. Now, for recording videos, you know, it's OBS, it's super easy to use, everyone uses that, there's basically nothing else that is as good. It works really well, it relies on my NVIDIA GPU for encoding, so it's fast and it doesn't completely destroy my CPU performance. It's just good. I don't do anything fancy, it's just a feed straight from the camera or a screen recording, and I do have one separate scene set up for my Warhammer channel to have my face in a circle at the bottom and the thing I'm talking about on screen above that. That's about it, no issues to report. I also use the Flatpak, which works better in my opinion. Audio recording is handled through Audacity, mostly for redundancy because OBS also records audio, but in the past I used to have a few issues where the audio recorded through OBS skipped a few instances, so the audio was a bit choppy in some places. That hasn't happened in a while, but just to avoid having to re-record something, I keep that set up where I record with OBS and Audacity, and I sync both tracks in DaVinci Resolve afterwards. I know Audacity has some controversies attached to it. It also looks atrociously bad for a modern program, because it's not a modern program, it is very old. I think it's still GTK2. Terrible look, and I know there was some telemetry controversy, but I haven't taken the time to look at anything else. I created a few macros in there, I don't want to have to recreate anything, so I haven't looked. As per video editing, it is of course DaVinci Resolve. If you want to know more about what I think about it, I made a video on all the tech that I still use but kinda sucks, and Resolve is in there. The TLDR is it's a fantastic program for video editing on Linux, but it is super temperamental, it is hard to install, it is hard to update, it is hard to keep running every time you update your distro, and it really does only support NVIDIA properly. You can make it run on AMD, but it is convoluted, the performance is worse, and you will get some crashes where you wouldn't get them on NVIDIA. It is also a program that has locked me into using an NVIDIA GPU, and basically I've been looking at Kdenlive recently, but the learning curve to go back to that is really rough, so I'm kinda stuck on DaVinci Resolve for now. For email and calendar, it is the old Thunderbird for the channel's email. You all know about it. I just use the email for it, and I don't really use a calendar on my desktop at all. It's mostly used on my phone for calendar appointments. I generally don't even sync them to the desktop. And for my personal email, it is Proton Mail. I use the desktop application. I use Proton Mail for everything personal. Simple enough, it works well. I like having separate accounts for personal and pro stuff. And the desktop app for Proton Mail works nicely enough. I think it's mostly just a web view, but it works. Now, what else is there? There's the terminal. I use the default console from KDE. Absolutely perfect for my needs. Does everything I need from it, but I don't use profiles, I don't do anything crazy in there. I use VLC for media playback or sometimes Dragon Player in KDE. I use KDE Connect to send stuff to and from my phone. I use the Tuxedo Control Center for managing my Tuxedo PCs. That's not something you can get on any other computer, but on Tuxedo PCs you get a few nice options in there and power profiles and stuff like that. I also use Winboat when I need to run a Windows app, which is basically never unless I actually need to record something that showcases Windows or how badly Windows does something for one of the videos I'm working on. And that's about it. Hopefully you learned about a few tools that you didn't know previously, mostly small utilities. Hopefully you'll let me know in the comments some tools that you use that might maybe fix some of my problems. And also hopefully it showcases to everyone that you can absolutely use Linux for your day-to-day work, because every time I see a comment from someone saying, you can't use Linux for work, it's a system for nerds, it makes me laugh because I've been daily driving it for 8 years without ever needing a dual boot, so yeah, you can use it. Anyway, let me know what you think and what you use down in the comments. You have all the usual YouTube buttons and links down in the description, including one to our sponsor, Tuxedo Computers. You all know about them if you've ever listened to a single one of my videos. They've been a sponsor of the channel for years now. They make laptops and desktops that ship with Linux out of the box. You can install any distro in there. They contribute drivers upstream to make sure that everything is supported properly. They have a big range of computers, from more affordable laptops all the way up to giant workstations and gaming devices. They are based in Germany, but they ship to most countries in the world, and I only use their computers these days. I have no other PC that I use on a day-to-day basis that is not made by them, because they just work. It's that simple. So the link is down in the description as usual. Check them out if you need a new PC. Anyway, this will conclude this video. Check out all the ways to support the channel down there. Leave a comment, click the buttons. You know how it works. I guess you'll see me in the next one. Bye!